All right, it's Chiefs and Vikings on Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead Stadium. And to help us break it down, we bring on a now two-time guest in Charles Davis, who will be on the call for Fox this weekend. Charles, last time you had us was the Detroit Lions, and we were able to pick up that win in pretty exciting fashion. So maybe you're just the Chiefs' good luck charm for the NFC North.
Oh, I know better than that. I'm just glad I'm able to double down with you, BJ. And, it's funny how that works with us announcers. Sometimes we just end up in a cycle where games we do, the team wins, and people go, oh, you guys are the best. And then sure enough, there's a loss. And it's like, you guys have got to be the worst announcers I've ever heard. In fact, there's an NFL executive of a team that is very, very good that used to hate the sight of me.
Really?
And then in the last couple of years when his team got good, all of a sudden I was okay. So you never know how it's going to work.
That's a superstitious GM, because anybody who's ever been around you knows that they do not want to not be around Charles Davis. But, Charles, for this one on Sunday, you've got the Chiefs 5-3. I know they're banged up right now dealing with injuries. We don't yet know, because it's earlier in the week still, who might be back for the Chiefs. They're going to have to wait to go through all those practices. And Andy Reid notoriously is not giving any updates on injuries until later in the week to see how those guys kind of feel throughout the week. But for the Vikings, they feel good coming into this one. They're 6-2. They've won 4 straight. Just as you're looking at this matchup, just what do you love about what you're going to see or what you want to see on Sunday between these two teams?
Well, what's so fun about this one, BJ, is you mentioned how the Vikings feel good about themselves. And 1 month ago, you would have thought the entire sky was falling in Minneapolis, St. Paul, right? I mean, a month ago, you had a wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, talking about getting traded. You had Adam Thielen saying we've got to take more shots downfield. You just felt like there was so much tension, and there was a lot of it pointed at the quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who is now the NFC Player of the Month of October, who has just been phenomenal. 78%, 10 touchdowns, just 1 pick, 4 wins. Here's what I like about this matchup. We knew before the season began it was offense versus defense. Kansas City's offense versus Minnesota's defense. We wanted to see if Kansas City's defense would come along. They're still working at it, still a work in progress. I think we'd be safe in saying. Minnesota's offense in the last month has jumped up to become one of the best offenses in the league. So now you're talking about the only team in the league that Kansas City's going to face on Sunday. Minnesota, top 5 defense, top 5 offense in terms of rankings. I don't think any of us saw that coming, truthfully. But they are explosive in the run game with Dalvin Cook, explosive in the passing game with Kirk Cousins and Stephon Diggs. We'll see if Thielen's back, and right on down the line. But their defense, that is a differentiator for them right now. And frankly, they're not playing as well as they've played in the past. They're still playing good, but they still think there's another level they can get to. For Kansas City, I can't wait to see if they keep blitzing, because I've seen a lot of that in the last couple of weeks. And if they keep bringing the pressure, how will Minnesota handle that? Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun to see them get after Joe Flacco, and they got after Aaron Rodgers. And Joe Flacco, the Broncos were banged up along the offensive line, but the Packers were healthy up front. And they were still able to get home, so that was a nice test to see them put it together in back-to-back weeks. But talk about the Vikings playing well. Those last 4 weeks when Kirk Cousins got the NFC Offensive Player of the Month award, they've won those games by 14.5 points on average over the last 4 weeks. So these guys are playing good football. A question for you: when you look at the Chiefs offense, not knowing if it's Matt Moore or Patrick Mahomes this week, but what we saw last week from Matt Moore against the Packers, just as you were going through the tape, what impressed you most about a player making his first start in 700 days?
It's unbelievable in a lot of ways, and I think we start to take these types of things for granted because we see guys perform at high levels when we don't expect it. We go, oh yeah, that's what they do, they're pros. But you're right, 700 days. The good thing for Matt Moore is that he's always been equipped to be a good backup. That's been his lot in the NFL. You come out of college and you're the guy, and then you find out I got to find a niche somewhere. The best backups in the league, as we know, BJ, can play with very few snaps, meaning they don't get much practice time. You don't work with the ones, but you know the offense forwards and backwards. You're prepared to play. Matt Moore is also tough and gritty as well, and I think he's only going to get better. And the reason I say that is he's a skilled player. Obviously, no one's Mahomes, but at the same time now, timing will get better because he will have worked more with the ones. We don't know if he's going to be the starter Sunday or not, but in any event, he will have gotten work with the number 1 offense this week. They won't just, keep him out and hope that Patrick can play. I think timing will get better. He'll anticipate throws better going forward. Does that automatically turn into 15 big plays like Kansas City seemingly is used to getting. No. But I think the offense hums a little bit better. And this is a guy who gets it, and I think he has the full respect of his team, too.
Yeah, and we've seen Andy Reid will find and scheme ways against whatever defense they're facing to get guys open. We saw with the Travis Kelce touchdown pass, saying that was one that they worked on all week. He had to float it up there. He had to get rid of it a little quicker than they wanted against the Packers. But that's a good example of Andy Reid just designing a play. And Charles, in 6 years of watching practices, not that I take note on every play, I'd never seen that play before with that play action, all that motion in the backfield. That was a new one. But
real quick, BJ, isn't it something that we're talking about? What's Andy, 61?
Yeah, something like that.
Right, a 61-year-old coach, not set in his ways, always trying to adopt new offense, trying to find things that go with it. And the coaches have told us since the beginning, the best coaches are the ones that adapt to the talent they have, not force the talent that they have to adapt to them. Yeah. Well, most coaches don't live up to that. Andy Reid actually does.
Yeah, anybody who's been around him know how competitive he is, and the fact that he had the challenge of taking a quarterback who hadn't played in a long time, a guy they liked, and then see what he could do with him not having Patrick Mahomes. You know, that competitive side of Coach Reid's coming up saying, all right, I'm going to dust off some plays and figure out some stuff and put a lot on himself to put Matt Moore in a position to make plays. And we saw it. Chiefs took a lead into halftime, couldn't quite hold on, but it was a very good effort from the Chiefs. Now, defensively, you mentioned all the pressure. And just to dive into that a little bit, last 2 weeks, Broncos, Packers, Chiefs defense gets 49 pressures, 14 sacks, which is 4 more than any other team in the league over that stretch. What is it that you've seen, maybe going back to week 4, the Lions game, what you saw leading up to the prep that you did going into that game, compared to the defense that you saw the last couple of weeks as you're doing your preparations for this game?
Yeah, it's very much different, and this is where we're just talking about Andy Reid having that in him to make it, to adapt and to change. How about Steve Spagnuolo? Because all of a sudden Chris Jones isn't there at defensive tackle. All right, that's a big loss, and he's not just a run stopper. He's a penetrating upfield, rush the passer guy who had, 15 half sacks last year. So when you lose a guy like that, that's a big deal. Now you're replacing him with a rookie. Colin Saunders is coming in. And while he's had his bumps along the way, he's also played well, a very athletically skilled guy. He's kind of in the mold of Chris Jones, kind of that type of a player. Obviously needs seasoning and needs to get going. But the biggest deal for me is I don't think the pressure is strictly in the pass game, BJ. Yeah. I think the Spags looked at things and said, look, we're not stopping anyone running the football by conventional methods. Sometimes you just bring extra bodies to the line of scrimmage in hopes that you stack up the run game and don't allow anything like that to pop, because people were gashing them. I mean, it's 145 yards a game, I think, is the average. Yeah. They can't have that at all, but it's also a risk-reward. I'm going to keep bringing the pressure, hope to stack up the run game, get to the quarterback, which, as you've noted, they have been doing, and just hope to throw people off their timing a little bit. Unfortunately, it didn't work down the stretch against Green Bay, because when they had the chance, when Andy decided to punt late, timeouts in his pocket, they never saw the ball again. Yeah. That's where things have to improve for them. They've got to find a way to shut it down. But it's hard to do. Frank Clark's not playing or didn't play last week. Chris Jones has been out. You're asking a lot of guys to play different roles. Okafor's dinged a little bit. It's a whole different ball game. But I do like the move of Reggie Ragland getting more playing time. Yep. Another bigger body near the line of scrimmage. That should help things out as well. Or I should say continue to help things out. And
Coach talked about it this week, and you know this from being a former player. It's that next man up philosophy. But it's not the fact necessarily that Chris Jones was out or that Alex Okafor got hurt in that game, that skill wasn't on the field. It was that they didn't have more bodies. And that a lot of those defensive guys, especially those big guys up front, chasing around Aaron Rodgers in the backfield, that those guys get tired later in the game. You saw it. They start to get a little winded, and that is getting those guys healthy back, not just to get their skills on the field, but to give guys rest and go back to that rotation to get guys in there. But as you mentioned, it's not going to be any easier this week going up against what we've seen is the best version of Kirk Cousins over the last month with the numbers that you mentioned that he's putting up. But to go one step further and really where this offense seems to go through is Dalvin Cook. Speaking of best versions of a player that everybody was hoping to see last year before he got hurt, he's leading the NFL with 823 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. This guy is doing a little bit of everything. Just how special is he as a player when he's got things going like he does right now?
He's super special. I feel like a fifth grader. He's super special, BJ. He's something else. Yeah. But he truly is. This is what they expected to get when they drafted him. But you remember he came out, got dinged his first year. Last year had the hamstring, which I think was based a lot on rehabbing the knee.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get those correlating injuries when you're rehabbing one part of your body, the other part gets a little sore too. So he just hasn't had those years, but they kept telling us in the offseason, 33 special. If we get him healthy, he's special, and he's proven that. He runs between the tackles. He, like many backs, better getting to the perimeter, and they will block it and get runs that way.
Yeah.
But if you're a Chiefs fan, what scared you last week and what you saw with Aaron Jones catching the football, Jamal Williams catching the football, Dalvin Cook catches the football. Okay, his scrimmage yards per game, I think they're like first or second in the league. So this guy can do a little bit of everything. And what I've seen over the last few weeks is the Vikings have really expanded their screen game. Mm-hmm. You know, they love to run screens to him, but they will also run regular routes and check downs. They just want to get it in his hands, and then he does the work after that. So they're varied in what they're doing, but it does run through him. And I do think of Minnesota similar to how I think of Dallas now, BJ. When you think of Dak at his best with Dallas, that means Zeke is probably running for over 100 yards.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins is getting all this work done, but take a look at what Dalvin Cook's been doing throughout this time. It's almost 100 yards every game. It's almost book it, and he's going to get that. That allows a quarterback a lot more comfort and allows him to run play action, bootlegs, all those things. And there you have it. So I think there's some similarities there.
Yeah, you just mentioned they run play action more than any other team in the league, and that makes sense considering the kind of running game they have. And when they do that, one of the guys they're delivering the ball to, who you mentioned earlier, is Stephon Diggs, and what he's done over the last month with Adam Thielen dealing with the hamstring injury. Not sure if he's going to go. I know he's limited at practice so far this week. But Stephon Diggs, I'll never forget, is a player that when Tyreek Hill is asked what players around the league or which players around the league he watches as far as trying to get tips from or try to emulate their abilities, he always talks about Stephon Diggs' route running ability. When you flip on the tape as a former DB, just how special is that, and what kind of challenge does he present to whoever is lined up across from him on Sunday?
He's an excellent route runner. He's precise. He's confident in his cuts. He makes them at full speed. My analogy is when you see the best skaters in the NHL, they don't chop. They don't chop when they take turns. They skate through the turns. Then they skate hard. That's how Diggs runs his routes. You know, he's not really chopping much down to get it in position where you read him. He's doing things at full speed. Kendall Fuller knows him pretty well. They went to high school together. Yeah. So he'll be passing along whatever tips he has along the way. But just know it is an all-day affair with him. If there's one thing you're looking for, though, and one thing that he has to clean up is taking care of the football.
Right.
Because he has decimated people the last 3-4 weeks, but every game there's been at least one fumble. So I think he's got 4 for the year. He had one glance off of his face mask and bounced in the air, and Andrew Sandeo picked it off in the Philadelphia game. But all in all, the numbers are so well to the good for him that they'll allow him a lapse or two. But if you're a defensive back and you get beat, just try and see if you can pop the ball free, because it has come free on him the last 3-4 games.
Yeah, this could be Tyrann Mathieu. We saw him almost make a ridiculous play last week against the Packers. Juan Thornhill, we've seen him all over the place. It could be an opportunity for those guys to make plays. But before I let you go, you didn't think I was not going to have a Tennessee reference. I see the hat right there. And I went through the rosters for both teams. And interestingly enough, and over the years past, the Chiefs have always had several 3, 4, 5 Tennessee guys. Yeah. Each of these teams has one Tennessee guy. And they're the two punters, Britton Colquitt, Dustin Colquitt. How much are you looking forward to watching the punting game on Sunday as a former Tennessee Volunteer?
I'm excited to see both of them because of the Tennessee ties that we have. But the Tennessee ties go a little deeper than just the fact that they played there and were terrific. Their father, as you know, Craig, was a punter for the Steelers and won Super Bowl rings, and also was a Tennessee guy. And their uncle Jimmy was my teammate at Tennessee, and he was an All-American punter. And you know how we always do this, BJ? When you talk about people who didn't make it in the league or didn't do whatever, you often say, man, you should have seen this guy, right? These guys are great. You should have seen their uncle. Yeah. Their uncle had as good a leg, BJ, as I've seen. I mean, Jimmy, you go back and check out Jimmy's numbers. Yeah. Jimmy was an All-American one year. I think he averaged 48.5 that year net, punting for us at Tennessee. I don't know exactly what happened and why not. Yeah. But I think that these guys and their dad would tell you that Uncle Jimmy, he could very well have been another one in the league as well. So when you talk about a punting factory,
yeah,
you think Colquitt and you think Tennessee, and that brings a big smile to my face.
We've asked a lot because Britton was with the Broncos for so many years. We've asked Dustin so many questions. I don't know we've asked about his uncle before, so that's a good one. It'll be a new twist to questions for Dustin.
Just ask about Uncle Jimmy and just ask about Jimmy's All-American career at Tennessee.
All right.
And in fact, see if they know about the quick kick that we snuck him in for.
Okay.
In 1983, I think, at Alabama.
Okay.
Which helped change the fortunes of the game, and we beat Bama for the first time in 11 years in Birmingham.
You never forget. Never forget.
No.
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you joining us again this week. And I got to tell you, I love the fact that you're calling another game, but I love the fact that it's at Arrowhead. You get to come to Kansas City. Before I let you go, are you going to try any Kansas City barbecue? And if you are, where are you going? What's your spot?
I'm not sure exactly where we're going yet. My crew hasn't picked the spot. But we're going to. I mean, we're gonna dive into it probably 2 or 3 times. I mean, you don't go to Kansas City and not do that. I just can't wait for game day atmosphere. It's one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. And we'll argue that between there and Seattle and a whole bunch of other places that'll want to get involved. But when you drive in and smell the Q, and then you get there and the national anthem, home of the Chiefs, and it's hard to beat. And I am very fired up, and I know our crew is as well.
Awesome. Well, if you need any barbecue recommendations, Charles, you let me know.
I know who to call.
If not, you know my phone's always open. If not, we will see you Sunday. Always appreciate your time.
All right, and when I call, you can come join us too, BJ.
Hey, anytime. I'll bring the whole fam.
Great.
All right, thanks, Charles.
Thank you.